Welcome back to the series, and we have seen how to create our first VueJS components in the previous episode. In this episode, we are going to see how to change the default port. So there are scenarios where you need to change the default port in development environment because you may have to run multiple VueJS applications on your local machine, or the default port, which is 5173, is already used by some other application on your local machine. So it can be any reason, but in Vue.js we have three options to change the default behavior of that. Let's see what are those in this episode. Now let's get started with the first option. So the first option is you can pass port flag to the npm rundev command. So now let's start the application by running npm rundev. When you run npm rundev, we are using Vite tool. So Vite tool builds the application and run the application on port 5173 on your local machine. So let's copy that URL, and yes, the application is running on 5173 here. And let's go back and let's add the flag called port and pass whatever the port that is not being used on our local machine. So I'm using 3000 here, and let's restart. Don't forget to restart the application. Now the application is running on port 3000 here. Now let's see what is the second option. Now the application is running on port 3000, and we have seen what is our first option. The second option is, let's remove the port option here, flag option here. We have a vite.config.js. So the entire application is built with Vite tool. So we have a configuration file in which you can pass server object. In the server object, you can pass port. So whatever the port that you pass here, the application will take this port and runs the application on that particular port. So since it's a configuration file, you have to restart the application. Let's restart it. Yes, we have restarted, and the whatever the port that is given in the configuration file is being used by Vite tool now. Yes, the application is running on port 3010. Now we have seen two options. Let's use these two options together and see which takes the precedence. So we have used the port 3010 in vite.config.js, and we have used the port 3006 in the package.json. Now we restart the application. The application takes the port 3006. So that means whatever the port that is being used in package.json takes the precedence here. Now the application is not running on 3010, it's running on 3006. So let's remove this, and I will show you another option. Sometimes you don't get to change the package.json. So sometimes you need to pass that port flag through terminal or through scripts. So in that scenario, you can use _ and pass port when you actually run npm rundev command in this way. So now I'm passing 3050 through terminal. I'm not putting any port in vite.config.js JS or package.json. I'm just passing, and basically the whole application is running on 3050 now. Let's get started with the third option. So I have removed all the options. Now the application is running on 5173. Yes, the application is running on 5173 now. Let's go back to the code, and so we have a third option in which we can use environment variable file. So in Vite tool, there is an object called import.meta.env object. On that object, Vite exposes all the environment variables. So So I already put this page in the description, you can check the page later, but let's add the env file right now and let's put any variable. I'm putting the variable called view port and I'm using the port 9090 here. And this is not enough. So we already know in Vite configuration file, we can use server object to pass the any port. So we already seen this, but the real problem here is how do you use the port from .env file. So for that you have to use load env from Vite library. Let's import that. Let's import that load env from Vite, and then so I'm just pasting the line here. So all this does is it is actually assigning all the variables from the load env to process.env. Process.env is the Node.js object. So on process.env, all the variables are attached to the process.env here. So now we have defined the flag called viewport in .env, and we can just use it through process.env at line number 18 like this. Yeah, let's use the same name here. Now the application already restarted and it is using port 9090. So there is another way. This is something complicated, but it's good to know there is another option like this. Okay, we have seen three options how to change the default port of Vue.js application. The first option is using the port flag. You can use in two ways. Either you can pass port flag to vite command, or you can pass through terminal with npm run dev. So either of these options are fine. You can use it based on your scenarios. And the second option is using server object in vite.config.js. So whatever the port that is given in the server object, the Vite builds the application and runs the application on that particular port. And the third option is it's a combination of environment file and vite.config.js. So first you have to add port in the .env file, and then you have to attach that import.meta.mode, that entire object to process.env, and then you have to read that particular variable through process.env.